Tuesday Night Talk. Today I'm very glad to receive Sabine Moore, known as Waterflower. I'm very glad you're here.
Nice to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you are musician, sound producer. You are also a graphic artist. We will speak about the visual works and videos you are doing and get further into the details. There is sound experimentation, and so to start there is always this cheesy question on how you would define your work, as it is at the crossroad of all these different aspects. Sometimes you are speaking about avant-pop. Maybe you could tell us more about all this.
Yeah, the moment that Waterflower was started, it was called Kraftwerk back then, and I was studying in art school. But I needed an outlet for my love of music, because I was, well, as you are as a teenager. Some are. I was one of those who were really into music, and I just started creating stuff. And because it happened in parallel to the art, then later on I realized that it kind of went hand in hand, and it became the obvious medium where I can really put in like everything that I do. And then, what it ends up being, I guess, is just down to what I'm really interested at that time. So originally it was a lot more, I would say field recording, but it's really at home made field recording based sounds. So I would build compositions out of toys I found at home and things like that. And then over time it became more ambient. At first it was noisier, then it became more ambient. And then something happened around 2015. I started to be in a band. At first it was a duo, MMMM, and it was like I lived the teenage period I never had before through that project, and I was just like, let's make bad music. and because my creative partner was I introduced him to music in general, and I liked seeing where he goes with just what he works with, and I was inspired by the simplicity of what he went for, and I was like, okay, well, let's try this. And I kind of really got into these strong electronic, by strong I mean purely electronic sound palette. And then what Waterflower is now is like all those things together.
It seems to me when I listen to your first albums on Bandcamp or your live in Budapest that there is a huge work on voices, that you use it as an instrument on its own with loops and sound manipulation, experimentation, and indeed strong, very low pitch shifting effects.
Yes. That's I've always really liked to work with manipulating the voice. I find it's really interesting what happens if you pitch it down or pitch it up and then pan it different ways, and that was what underlined the music I created before. Now maybe I think I'm a lot more my relationship to my voice has changed than it was before, so I don't know what direction it's going to take me next, but I'm on a journey.
Yeah, maybe more lead vocals, or it has more presence as a raw thing in your music.
Yes, at the moment I'm exploring more lead vocals, but also I'm not sure I am the right vocalist for the kind of classical lead vocals. So I wouldn't want someone to misinterpret it when hearing it, to think that the aim is something like a pop vocal. And I recently I was thinking I'd love to go back to doing more experimental vocal sounds. So we'll see. Like, actually right now I am working on a new album, and I like how the demos sound. They are a lot. It's gone somewhere else since Baltergeist. So
you were speaking about your teenage years, and there is indeed always this very classical, cheesy question about what were the kind of things that mattered to you at this time, that you considered to be inspiring or influential. And for example, when one watches the video of Find It, it looks close to Aphex Twin, like with this morphing that has become a reference, like if Chris Cunningham has been doing this as a video director. The Aphex Twin influence was kind of obvious to me into the rhythmic patterns, but maybe there are other things that have influenced you not only in music but also in plastic arts.
yeah, no, I really like Aphex Twin. That for sure. And with that, like, well, all the things that came, like there was Eamon Tobin that was very interesting, and Mode Selector, and Tom York. I've always been really, really liking his work. And then, I mean, the obvious one is Björk to mention, but you know, that kind of goes without saying.
You are the Latvian Björk, but maybe this is too much to handle. I don't know.
I think there are a couple ladies out here competing for this title. Okay. But yeah, no, in my teenage years, I had a Riot Girl period where I was just so loving that aesthetic, and I was listening to Babes in Toyland and Hole, and really getting into that side. But at the same time, I absolutely loved, like, The Knife, this Swedish electronic music project.
I don't know them, but the Sleater kind of comes to my mind as a Riot Girl, indeed. Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, the knife is an important one to mention because the singer has a lot of pitch down vocals in their music, and they mostly worked with modular. But I mean, I'm a digital person, so.
No women friends, too rigid and too well paid. I like the feminist way.
I'm searching how to do that as well. And then, I have some guilty pleasures from that time. I was fascinated with the vocals from the singer of Evanescence, because she would make the singing style was like crying, but it was still singing. It was I really loved that, how a vocalist could kind of sound like they're about to cry, but then turn it into music. I thought that was really something special. But that's a guilty pleasure.
Yeah, I understand. Sometimes I listen to Slayer, and I cannot tell anybody. That's a dirty secret I have. Yeah, well, you didn't listen to any I don't know, indie pop of the 90s. Like we were talking the other day in a different circumstance about the Foo Fighters, for example. You didn't seem to get really into this kind of music. Or...
Well, I was a big Placebo fan.
Okay.
But that's again because the vocals are like really together with the guitar sounds. I love the guitar sounds in Placebo. So, yeah. Interpol at the time as well. Well, The Cure were important. Goldfrapp. Very, very, very was very special to me. And then Tricky kind of came hand in hand with Goldfrapp. And it's interesting, like how much I loved Goldfrapp, and then I later understood that the things I liked the most in Goldfrapp were actually what was inspired by Scott Walker. So that's something I really, really like.
So you are saying that you are now writing an album that will be quite different from Baltegeisma, and you are also sound producer when you are working in your project with your partner Richard, that is called Abuses. And I was wondering if there is some sort of key moment in sound production that is some sort of soft spot, or if there is something that is absolutely essential inside the sound design process. If you are using only DAW, are you using hardware, this kind of stuff?
I started out by being a digital person, and then I had quite a few years of going the hardware route. And since COVID, I've decided, like, back to digital. I feel really comfortable with software-based things, and I love that there's like so much possibility, and you can just keep on piling stuff and changing parameters. And I don't think I really require that hands-on touch, not right now. Like, I can spend such a long time on a track and get really obsessed with the sound of each individual instrument and how it fits together, and solo various tracks together until I'm really happy how they sound. And I love to also take breaks between these like sessions and sometimes like totally restructure the songs. I'm quite into playing with the listener's attention. I think that a lot of interesting things can be done if it's interesting the whole time. But also, I love filling the sound. So something a bit like the wall of sound is really what I'm into. Maybe making the harmonies with several different instruments. So instead of a chord being with one synthesizer, I create layers with various synthesizers to create that harmony.
So you don't seem to belong to this category of musician or sound producer that maybe I belong to now, that feel that with digital processing, DAW and software, there are sometimes too many possibilities. Do you know where to stop or how to focus in any occasions?
I think I'm okay.
It could be like some drug. I don't know. But do you?
I found my favorite things.
Okay.
Like I found. I have a couple favorite plugins. I mean, it kind of changes over time until I feel like I've done everything I can with those few plugins. But I have my favorite tools, and I really love trying to achieve a certain goal that I have. And I'm not going to do it the first time, and I'm probably not going to do it the seventh time either. But what I create in the process, I listen back to it and I just love it. I'm like, wow. And then I can spend time making that into something that I would call finished.
And do you have a specific criteria for this when you decide it is finished as a part of sound design or sound creation? Or is it something that can be manageable and that can change also during the mixing process?
Mostly it has to sound like finished before the final mixing. So it's kind of like it has to have all the elements that are necessary and nothing that is spare. I just listen back to stuff a lot. A lot. And what I mentioned before about taking breaks, sometimes stuff is almost finished and I listen back, and if it still sounds almost finished, then I have some work left to do.
That's a good criteria, yeah. And time can be best of the best allies that we have. And what are you not doing? Mastering? Mixing sometimes?
Well, I don't really have the equipment at home to properly master my own stuff. So I'm not doing that. But sometimes I do release something that I master myself. So you know, like there's been recent tracks as well. So I guess someone can try and guess which ones I did and which ones I asked someone else. But I just kind of feel more confident sending it to someone else because I don't have the monitor set up.
So we already mentioned the fact that you are a visual artist, and in the sense that you are crafting sculptures or plastic art, doing animation also. And there are these videos that are a huge amount of work, very long process. Some are different, like the one about that is called Sneak Pulctanitis. It is a little punkish and more raw, I would say. But the thing that is really striking inside some of your videos, like in Vairagi is how much you change your personality and you embody these characters to the point that one can sometimes be confused and don't recognize you. In Vairagi, you are getting out of the branches. You were behind the branches, and when my wife saw this, she was saying, "Is it still her?" And so I was wondering why there is this drive inside of you, sure, as a manner of creativity, a creating process in itself, but that's very specific to your artistic identity, and I would be curious to know more about this.
It's like a game.
Yeah.
I love creating characters, and I love embodying characters, and I think for each song, I guess I feel the character that is in that song. So, I mean, I unfortunately I don't totally know why I do it. so I'm not sure what to answer there, but it's a lot of fun. And
because for some of the characters there are hours of makeup and dressing and
yeah, but it's kind of like, I also feel like, where else in my life can I do this? It's like there's no other platform for this kind of thing, because I certainly wouldn't want to just like look like that every day. I mean, I've got time, like I would spend that time on other things, but when it's for performing, I feel like it's like dressing up to go see the opera, kind of. It's a celebration, and I mean the characters, they are about this kind of very, very feminine character, like something that I don't think I really am like in day-to-day life. And I think I feel like I need to put the character on so I don't have to do it anywhere else. And also there's a little bit of this rebel aspect, that the processes I go through creating the music and actually all the pre-work and the setup, I think it kind of doesn't glue very well with these really like flamboyant characters, and maybe that's just how I see what the music scene is like in this country, in Latvia, but I feel that there should be more like femme woman representation in electronic music. I feel like it's kind of like you can do that stuff and also look like that, and that's okay. And it's a little bit of a rebel thing to do that. But also those characters are, because they are so feminine, I kind of feel that one of the cliches of being something very feminine is to, well, if we think about like feminine energy, then it's very giving, but it's also silent. So it's like, it's look but don't speak kind of thing. And I like that the character, like, it kind of looks like, I don't know, I'm going to sing like a siren or something. And and then I break that, because the music is nothing like that. And I feel like it's a juxtaposition of a lot of things, and I want to give a voice also to this kind of character and this kind of femininity. And And also it really works with the kind of art education that I had at the time when I started making music, because we were doing a lot of classical painting and analysing a lot of classic painters' works, and this is very much how the female characters are portrayed. I mean, okay, they don't have glitter and all that stuff, that's like a modern edition, but it's kind of like that's what I was seeing when I first started to find my voice in music in general. So it's kind of like a personal nostalgia trip, I think.
Okay. So you take these references and you try to do something completely different out of this, and you and at the same time you embody this. Okay, and fighting against stereotypes.
Yes.
If I get it.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the one problem there is like, is it understood? But that's a whole different question.
You give some material to something I deeply believe, and then we can exchange also about this in this interview, is the fact that some models are built with the goal of being very revolutionary, or to step aside from the norm with new identities, but some generation later you can have second thoughts about this and wonder if sometimes this step aside is sometimes very revolutionary and not normative or alienated in itself, and no longer revolutionary as it could be or could have remained, but the initial spirit seems to have been lost somehow. And these are models that we should be able to address or question in any way, I think. About identity also, I found your lyrics really disturbing sometimes. For example, in Vairogi, there is a moment when you're saying, if a translation is correct, no one will take us by surprise. Our shields are, our ancient songs are our shields. No one will take us by surprise. Is it a reference to Latvian identity and history?
Yes, like that certain piece, most of the lyrics are from a poet, Vitāls Ļūdens, and actually there's a much more famous song created from the same poem. Because actually that piece was a commission by the Latvian Literature and Music Museum some years ago. So in his case, the poem was it was quite important during the fall of the Soviet Union and Latvia finding itself again. And there was a period when I was really interested also in creating my own version of my identity as a Latvian. And I got involved in quite a few projects where I was asked to create something new with some poets' work. I had some Rainis and some Aspazija and some Vitāls Ļūdens.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had the choice of various poems to choose from, but this was the one that I chose. I think what I liked about that poem was that it suggested that the Latvian people are connected to the land that they were born and live on, and that is the main connection. And this song about ancient shields speaks about that they're tied. Latvians are tied to the land. But I also like it from a concept that any land that you are on long enough, you identify with. So
What do you think, what do you feel when you see what Hungary has become, when you see what Poland has become, and do you have any fear that Latvia could become not strictly the same, but could undermine the freedom of women or minorities, like it happened in these countries?
Well, I mean, it is quite scary what happened in Hungary, but at the same time, for Poland, for example, like despite what's happened there, the underground movements, the strength in the underground movements and the solidarity is amazing. Like from what I have been in Poland and performed in Poland, like the punk collectives, the feminist collectives, the queer collectives are really, really strong. And I think, like, whilst it's not great that is the reason why, but at the same time, their strength and visibility, I think, goes beyond the borders of just Poland. And so, I mean, whilst it's not a justification, but at the same time, I'm really proud of the Polish music scene, of what they're managing despite everything.
So there is hope that is left. and collective,
because if that outside oppressor is the reason enough for the collective to come together and really find ways to emote with each other, then and therefore have a louder collective voice, then I think that's just part of it all. So it's but for Latvia, I mean, I live in my own little bubble, and I don't plan to change that. So.
Also, you made some sort of documentary about the drag king movement in Latvia and in the Baltics. Could you tell us about this project?
Yes. So we filmed a whole load of material actually last year, enough for 5 episodes, and I'm doing all the work. I'm playing with my toys in my own personal playground, and I've been left to play. and it's taking a long time, but the first 2 episodes are out, and the first episode was very interesting because it talked about the differences between being a drag king and being a trans person, for example, and where these things are in parallel and where these things are different. And the second episode was about the history of drag kings, like pre-20th century. And the third episode is going to be about modern drag kings, but more in like a worldly context. And we filmed it all on green screen, and so there's a lot of animation to do in the background. So fingers crossed it's not going to take me forever again. But it's in this case, the text was mostly written by the speaker, Laura Stadna, together with Marta Sabarova, who also helped with this text. And I mean, it's just a few drag kings in Latvia, but they're making so much impact. And I feel that also just doing drag, I think it was the first time when I like gave myself a reason to take off like any performative femininity that I might have, and I was amazed. I was like, it was, you know, I had no clue I was doing stuff like that in my daily life. So it's really great, and I hope the third episode will not take too long.
So the first 2 episodes are available on YouTube. Yeah. We will put the links of the YouTube already available in the description down below. And to finish, I have this magic question I ask to all my guests here. As far as you can remember in your recollection when you were a child or a teenager, what are your earliest memories linked to music or sound?
I'm unsure if it's a memory purely because I remember it, or if it's because I've watched a VHS tape of the thing. But there was a tape of me when I was like 2 or 3, and in that tape I think I'm running around with some balloon or something, and there's a band playing in the background. There's like music coming from the TV, and at one point I found what it was. It wasn't like Yazoo or something like that, but it's from all that stuff. And then later in the tape I'm playing on my dad's Casio synthesizer, and I do remember him like just letting me play with it, and then he would play guitar with me and would kind of make a cover song, and I would just play random keys, and that was great. That was really cool.
Sounds beautiful. Yeah. Thank you very much. And if you enjoy watching this content, please smash the like button. Consider subscribing if you didn't already. It helps the growth of this channel. Don't forget to share on social network. That's also very helpful. And a huge thanks for watching, and I'll always see you on this channel very soon.
Thanks so much for having me.